What's up, everybody out in podcast world? Hope you're having a great day. You are listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh. Today's episode, we are actually going to read out from listener email. So before we get started with that, I want to, if you're watching this or listening to this, the Leader Farming book, Zach Thomas, by the time this recording is released, he would have been on the show a couple weeks prior to this. If you haven't picked up your copy of the book, it's free. Just pay for shipping. Pick up a copy of it. It's a really good book. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely listen to that episode and take that quiz. It shows you how to become a better leader yourself and your leadership style. So with that being said, I'd like to read an email from a listener, Molly. She says, hi, Tersh. Oh, yeah. By the way, Julie's, for those of you who don't know who Julie is my wife.
Hey, everybody.
And she's here. Before I get started with that, also, if you're watching this, you will notice that my dome is being covered. The glare is being reduced with a different hat than normal. Service Emperor. So we're rebranding starting
January 1.
Probably by the time this episode's released, we've already rebranded. So, but anyways, we have changed over. I'll let you tell why we're doing it. Okay. For some of the reasons.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So everybody around town and across the nation really knows us as Icebound HVAC and Refrigeration. However, the penguin in the name kind of limits us to refrigeration and air conditioning, and a lot of people call for ice, like literally ice to be delivered, and we don't really do that. Or
we don't do it at all.
Right. Well, we could do it because if enough people call, then it becomes an opportunity, right?
Right.
Anyway, but we wanted to make sure we started a new brand that allowed us to offer as many services and do as much as we can for the people that we serve. So Service Emperor will be a really great rebrand that allows us to have lots of services. So look forward to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of it. Yeah. Anyway.
What she said. Cool.
Anyway.
So we'll get started with reading this email. Actually, why don't you read it?
Yeah. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of directed your direction too.
Okay. So it says, hi, Tersh. I found your podcast this summer and I love it. My husband, Nick, and I own an HVAC business in North Central Minnesota. We're smaller. My husband and one other tech and I answer the phone and schedule. Something I've been coming across lately is people complaining about the price of their invoice. I know you're going to have that no matter what. I've just had an extra few lately. I read books and heard podcasts about making sure you actually are charging enough to make money, which we are doing. The people that have complained too, we show up right away. The system is working. Everything is done in a timely manner. I guess I'm having a hard time navigating this. Having thoughts like, are we overpriced? I think we're worth it. One complaint, for example, was having no heat. We came out the same day, fixed the same day, and it needed a part it was $220. I just wanted to know if you had any resources. I appreciate your time and your podcast. Thank you, Tersh. Molly.
You're welcome.
Great.
So I guess there's a couple of things there I'd ask in that email. One would be, I guess, was that a total ticket price, the $220, or just the part replacement? And I'm assuming that the system's working means before the technician left, the system was working properly.
Right. It didn't show up and it was working.
Right. Yeah. Because that's never good. But I think the first thing that I would start with is your avatar. So ensuring that person is even in your target avatar. And if you don't even know who your target avatar is, use somebody like, what's that? Melissa
Data.
Yeah, Melissa Data. So you can reach out to Melissa Data and give them a year's worth of your client base, and they will come up with your perfect avatar. And so then you know exactly who to target towards. So it may be a situation to where you just, if you're slow like we are, where we're located, it's not hot, it's not cold, or it is hot one day and it's cold the next day. So we're not getting a lot of demand calls, just maintenance calls. When you say,
actually, we have a good bit of demand calls. We're working in maintenances, but because we do commercial refrigeration, we're able to, I'd say,
but residential
side, not as busy.
Yeah. Yep. So when that happens, I know I'm guilty of it, taking people that are outside of your avatar,
right?
That are just because you're trying to fill a schedule. So
you end up with a difficult client.
Yeah.
Some of the times. So like Tersh was saying, it may not be your avatar, as in if they're not willing to pay a ticket that would be $220 or the part $220 plus whatever the rest of the cost may be.
So what
might not align well.
If it's not the avatar, then and maybe we're not building enough value. I think, did she say that she was building value?
I mean, them being out there the same day.
I mean, that's
huge.
That is big.
You're not putting people off.
Sometimes though, we have to step back and think about the value. Is it, is it high value to us, but to someone else, is it completely useless? I think a couple of those things are definitely your notification, almost to the point of over communicating. Mm-hmm. And that makes a big difference with a lot of people, just being able to provide that constant communication. And then if you have the ability, if you're using something like Service Titan where they have GPS tracking and you can send them a link. So it's like an Uber style link and they can just track where the technician is. So it takes a lot of that unknown out of the equation. So that's really cool too.
It's unlike the cable company or something like that, where they give you a 4 to 6 hour time window, and then you have to wait for that entire time. A lot of times I let the client know that when our service expert's on the way, I will make sure that they get a notification in their email and their phone, if they provided a cell phone number, and then they can actually live track the service expert all the way to their home. So they would know exactly how much time they had. And sometimes we'll even have requests to provide them with a 30-minute time window or 45-minute time window just to allow them to return home before we get there.
Yeah. And then you had the after the call wow factor stuff too. But if they're already kind of raising hell at the service call, it's kind of hard to build the value after the fact that you're pissed off at them because they're trying to be cheap on you. But then that goes to the service expert too, and making sure that they're providing value the whole time they're at the home. Because when you're running through service calls, like now we have, I think we're not scheduling Justin more than like 2 calls a day, maybe 3 calls a day.
3. Yeah,
so if you have a tech that's doing 16 calls a day or 12 calls a day and they're just flying through it, then there's no value. There's no way they could add value, not the proper amount of value to the call.
Even 5 and 6 starts to stretch the limit because the service expert's not going to find those second, third, fourth close opportunities either. So they're not actually taking care of the entire home. They're just taking care of that one isolated problem. And then they may miss another problem that actually, contributed, I guess, not being technical, but contributed to that concern.
Yeah. And also if it's, so Brian, a buddy of mine, and actually the original producer of this podcast, Brian Orr, he has a saying that he says to all his technicians, he kind of beats into their head. And that is, fill the schedule by inspecting the entire system and don't just fix the immediate problem. So like if it's a bad capacitor or if you're up north and you don't have heat pumps and you have a furnace and it's whatever furnace is due to break. If it's a bad, and I don't know, capacitor on a draft induced motor, and you have to replace just that part to get it up and going. Did you inspect the ductwork? Did you measure the static pressure? Those are little things that are just you just go over above and beyond to do. And then also, it could be a situation where, like, if you had a bad blower motor, that it was actually killed by high static pressure, but nobody's ever checked the static pressure. They never measured it. So they just assumed that, it was a power surge or it was just weak or it got dirty or something to that effect. And it was ultimately caused by high static pressure. And if you just take a moment and measure the static pressure, then.
All right, too technical.
But yeah, so just doing those extra things, it adds value. And then making sure that you tell the client what you're doing. I think that's a big thing, because when I do ride-alongs, a lot of times we'll do things and the technicians or the service experts, we call them, they won't tell the client everything that we did on the call. And so whenever we're writing out our invoice or even talking to the client, I make sure that they mention all of the extra things that we did while we were there, because they can't appreciate it if they don't know that you're doing it. So,
like an example, every now and then we'll clean a coil or do something small, like with zip tying cords together, cleaning up lines, or what are some other little ones that we maybe do?
I mean, that's a big one, rinsing off the condenser coil. And it's just one of those things. We're out there, we might be changing a capacitor. There's a water hose next to us. It doesn't take us 5 seconds to rinse it off. There's a lot of companies that want to make sure that you charge $189, but it's more of a thing where our technicians, they know that their labor percentage has to stay below the 20% mark. And so as long as their dollar amount, if they if they've been there for 3 hours to change out one capacitor, then that's one thing. You're not going to be giving away a lot of freebies at that point. But if it took you 5 minutes like it normally takes for a capacitor, you can take a few minutes to rinse that coil off too, and not charge them for it, but then also make sure you let them know about it. But then also,
something we do with that is actually still put it on the invoice.
Yeah.
So it's still included on the invoice, and then there's a discount line that allows them to show a zero balance for that charge, what it would have cost them, so they see the actual dollar value. Because saying that you cleaned something, somebody might not realize it could cost $189.
Right. And that's something that we've even recently had to start doing because of exactly what you just said. Because even verbally, me telling a manager, oh, this would have cost a couple $100, it doesn't sink in until they see it on a piece of paper or on an invoice. And then they see the discount, they discount it down to $0 amount.
Yeah. So Molly, in regards to that one call where it was a no heat, I don't know that service expert, whether it be your husband or the service expert that you have also on staff, like part of your team, if who went out and then how did they present the situation? Did they show empathy that the person had no heat from the beginning, from the moment you answer the phone? I think that's kind of where it starts. Like, even though during the call you could do all these extras and you could build value, but if you didn't do that, like if you didn't wow them on the front end, through the middle, and then even on the backside, then I think that's where you have some extra people that might complain, I guess.
Yeah, and you also have that the follow-up calls, your happy calls, your follow-up, asking for the reviews, and then your technicians are letting people know, did I give you a wow service? They're going to ask you for a review. It's going to directly reflect me, and we get bonus off of it. You could say that, or you could say there's a contest running inside the company to see who has the best reviews, and they are teeing you up so that whenever you go and actually ask for the review, or if you have an automated service that does that, they're more likely to leave the review. But with that being said, you have to make sure that the entire process is very standardized, like your entire service call. It can't be You can't have wow service one service call and then not so wow service the next service call, because it will show through. And then whenever you do get backed up, it's not beat into everybody's brains. So that'll be the first thing to go. As soon as like the phones are ringing off the hook, your texts are going to, that's whenever they're just like, all right, I'm not putting shoe covers on. I'm not putting a mat down. I'm not going to ask, the homeowner if where I parked is a good spot. I'm not going to park at the street. For anybody that has not listened to the interview that I did with Steve Kosha, I've done 2 of them, but our first interview was really good. And he talked about his soft skills, and that's what he trains on. He coaches technicians on soft skills. And one of the things that he really harps on is, first off, a clean vehicle, and then parking in the street so that you're not on someone's driveway. And also, whenever they come and open the front door, if you're on the street, they see your van, they see your truck, and hopefully it's logoed. And then, there's that sense of security and all that fancy mumbo stuff.
Well, I mean, and Molly, the other part of your email talks a little bit about price and the structure and needing some resources to making sure that you guys are pricing correctly. And I feel like if you're going by a price book that's kind of the basic, right? Like just start with the price book and then.
Well, the thing about it is you have to make sure that your price that you're putting into the price book, your billable hour, it actually covers your overhead. So that's something you probably need to do quarterly, maybe, but at least yearly. Just redo your numbers. And what I'll do is there's all kinds of overhead spreadsheets online, and I have a few of them from the past where I've linked them to different episodes, and I'll dig one out and send it over. Actually, I'll attach it to this show's show notes. But you put all of your overhead expenses in there, and then your break even. So and then you also know, like, okay, so if I want profit, if I want 5%, if I want 10%, if I want 15% profit, then you add that, to your overhead, or you add that to your price that you've come up with on your price sheet, and then you put that price into your price book. So if you're not using a price book, if you're just kind of winging it, like if you're just trying to do like $95 an hour plus, 10% markup on a part, that's going to be tough. It's not scalable, and it's going to be very, what's the best way to put it? It's going to be very negotiable whenever a technician knows that that's how you price, you structure your pricing. So, and that's also not the best way to price, structure any kind of pricing, because you need to be on a tier system of some sort. But if you go with a program, something like CoolFront, and I know that CoolFront was purchased out by Field Edge, I believe, but I believe you can still purchase their price book, and all you have to do is put in your billable hour rate, and then it just spits out the numbers for you.
Does it matter if they're flat rate or
that's flat
hourly?
rate? Yeah, it's definitely, that's a flat rate price book. And so and those, they go off of national numbers. So then whenever the people are asking you, well, that price seems kind of high, our price book is developed over a region, and it's a regional standard. These prices, they have an entire script. CoolFront does, I know, because I've read it several times, or they did. Hopefully they still have it. But a lot of times, if you can wow them, because our industry sucks at wowing people.
Well, how do you in a service industry, right? You have to be kind of creative.
You do. And so that's one of the things. If you wow somebody and they've actually experienced this before, so we have some millennials that are kind of the older millennials are our kind of our target audience, our avatar. And some of them have never experienced this before, because as we all know, millennials have lived in their parents' basement until they're 35.
Easy.
But if they've never experienced the purchasing process, then it's kind of hard to wow them, compared to someone else's crappy service. But if anybody's ever experienced really bad service and then you come in with a huge wow factor, then price kind of goes out the window. I mean, obviously it has to be realistic. You can't charge $1,000 for a $5 part, but you stop splitting hairs really on, $50 or $45 and stuff like that. The fact that y'all showed up the same day, that says a lot too. That's difficult even when you're kind of slow, because you want to, I know we do, you want to book out the next day, before the even day starts. So
yeah, I mean, we have a practice for that to make sure that we're strategically aligning the calls so that the schedule, so that way if something urgent like a no heat does come in, then we can include them in the same day service, because obviously that's could be an emergency, especially in Minnesota. Obviously, we don't really get the snow down here, but with that being said, though, why was he so disgruntled about the cost in general? I feel like you guys came out the same day. I imagine you're great people and you're, being courteous to them and you're not being disrespectful. It really, I feel like that comes back around to that's not really the best candidate for you to serve. And
yeah. And there's just people that you have to say no to. And when it's slow, that sucks, because, and we've said yes before to people that we should have said no to. And the entire time we were like, we should have said no, like the whole time. And then even, I mean,
but you attempt to serve everybody,
right?
And you attempt to serve them well.
And you also don't want to judge somebody. Right. You don't want to judge somebody by their book, right. The cover of the book, whatever the thing is.
Well, I mean, because we recently took care of a really grumpy old man that was super cute on the phone, and you could tell he was just had a chip on his shoulder, but you could, at the same time, he was appreciative and definitely paid his bill right at the finish of the service, didn't give our service expert any kind of grief. But even the service expert chuckled on, being a grumpy old man. We could have been like, okay, sir, I'll have to find somebody else because of the way he spoke. But
and that day could have been a long day for that service expert too. I mean, had things not worked out perfectly that day, I think he wound up with 4 service calls that day. So, right. And it's weird too, because when I was in the field, like I caught 12, 15 service calls a day, and it was almost like a badge of honor, like to see who could catch the most service calls. And so for me to sit on a service call and inspect the entire system, it's kind of weird for me to say and kind of weird to comprehend. But with the training that we send our service experts to, they really beat into their head, make sure you're offering everything, and not only services that we provide. So we have affiliate partners. So we have partners that are in different trades. And when we're there, if we see an electrical issue, if you have a panel that's falling apart, we have electricians that are in our network that we work with each other. And so some places will give them a spiff on it. Sometimes it's a commission. Sometimes they, they do the work and then we bill for it, and we just mark up their whole ticket. So however you work out that affiliate relationship, that the technician can look at all of that stuff. And then if you can develop that type of culture, you can even get to where you're spiffing those technicians for finding all these other things. I mean, you could have a fence person, a lawn person. I mean,
all those extra closes.
It really helps out, because if you're the connector, if you're the person that has the resources to solve all their problems, if you're the one-stop shop, even if it's not you that's doing the work, but you have somebody that's reputable that you will back, you'll stand behind them, that's a ton of value also, that in itself.
All right. Well, and then it leads into with the rebrand with Service Emperor. we are recommending services that we may not currently do because we have great affiliate partners that can serve them well. But then as we continue to grow, we can slowly, I guess, disconnect some from the affiliate partner and take care of them with our own staff.
If it's something we even want to do.
Right.
There's some things like roofing that
not a fan.
Have no desire to do that. I don't want to have anybody on a roof that I'm responsible for.
So just to make sure we're staying, like, I guess, focused on Molly's email, just having the resources to make sure you have the right price book. Are you flat rate? Are you hourly? And all of that is important.
If your time and material on residential change today, that is your problem.
Oh,
that is 100% the problem. Change.
All right. And that could be a whole nother episode, right? A whole nother episode.
There are like 6 episodes. So just search through flat rate. I mean, Brian Orr and I talked.
Lots of great content about why you should be flat rate for residential.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Several. There was a really good one about a year ago. I'm slowly drawing a blank. But we talked for several hours. I think I turned it into 2 episodes because we talked so long about flat rate versus time material.
Well, the other really important thing that Tersh has mentioned a couple of times is this wow experience. And I guess if we want to back up just a second, and with the building value part, and from the moment whoever of the 3 of you answer the phone, you immediately have to have that good posture, that smile on your face, like let them feel a great day, even if you're having the crappiest one.
Yeah. Put a mirror in front of you. That's something that's
huge.
That Julie's gone to a training, not the same one as the technicians, but one for office staff. And it's been very helpful with that. And that's one of the things that they talk about is putting a mirror in front of you.
It's one of the many tips. Yeah, for sure.
So Power Ceiling Pros, he was on a couple episodes ago. So a lot of what our coaches use, they got from Power Ceiling Pros, or vice versa. Power Ceiling Pros got them from them. They work together. They're one of our vendor partners in our coaching group. And so if you've ever used Power Ceiling Pros, if you haven't, check them out. And if you have, then just do what they said, and it really does work. Because like our after hour service, it's night and day difference with our customers and our clients. And we try our hardest to enforce them to do it our way, but there's still a call center.
Well, they ask all the right questions. And what Tersh is referring to is when they're asking all the same questions to the clients that we serve time and time again. There are Total Comfort Club members. There are commercial clients that we have every single one of their stores, and they're asking them, and what's the store address, and what's your phone number, and what's your name? And and that's all important, obviously. But when that one person, and I can just vividly remember re-listening to the call, when he called and we had no clue who he was because it was the call center, you could hear the devastation, like just that importance. Because when he calls and I answer, I'm like, all right, Sean, every time you call me, you're riding the struggle bus. Like we just have this joking kind of rapport, and that's important to them. So that's honestly, I think, another part of the wow, when you have relationships with the managers of commercial stores, and when you know that Mr. Tom has a dog named Pirate, and you can have the service expert go into the home and be able to acknowledge the pet by their name. Like, how huge is that? So just like one extra wow thing. But with answering the phone, and not only like when you're answering and you're upbeat and you're making that salutation of good morning or afternoon, and you share the name of your company and then introduce yourself. As soon as they say their name, you need to either jot it down or make a serious mental note and make sure that you're saying their name as often without it being super weird as possible, because people hearing their name is really important. And Molly, I've tried to say your name several times through
Yeah,
just
you're kind of beating a dead horse on
oh, all right. But no, it's totally important,
that. Just
Tersh.
kidding.
Anyway, but now you got me all off track.
So
all
whenever you
scatterbrained.
answer the phone, that's a huge value add, just answering the phone also and doing it consistently. And if you have the ability to listen to your conversation after you've answered the phone, do it. It will be horrible. And you just need to do it a lot and learn. It's just like getting on this microphone and start talking. It's horrible. And then you just do it and you keep doing it and you listen to it. And you'll learn, you'll figure out things where in the conversation, it's like, oh, they didn't understand what I was saying. Like that didn't make any sense. And when I'm listening to it, doesn't make sense when I'm listening to it. But whenever I was saying it, it made perfect sense.
Right.
Or maybe I was rambling. Or if you have a phone system that has a delay in it, you may be speaking over them. They may be speaking over you, and you don't realize it because of weird delays in voice over IP phones. So that that sets a bad foot forward right off the rip. But whenever so we have a very, very consistent, like every time you answer the phone, it's the exact same conversation, but it's very personalized. So it's not like a robot, like you're reading a script, because that's horrible.
You don't call everybody Bob. Not everybody's Bob.
Right. That would be weird.
I'm just teasing. No, but what I was starting to say a minute ago was the empathy part. Most people are not calling you because they're having a really great day. I mean, some people, if you offer a service where they're getting a remodel and they get to have a new bathroom, exciting, right? But if they are having no heat,
are you excited that they don't have any heat?
Perfect, Bob. No heat. No, but
sucks for you. Great for me. I'm about to get paid.
But whenever somebody calls and they say their walk-in freezer isn't keeping the proper temperature, the first thought is, oh no, we really have to get a service expert out there right away because all that product, I immediately know their concern is that
if it's ice cream, loss. I'm going to eat it.
That's Sonic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, so did you share your heart with them? I know that's super cheesy, but
it is so cheesy.
Like, were you empathetic, truly? Like they have no heat. They're hot as
sympathy and empathy are not the same thing. And if you try and be sympathetic towards them, if it was me, I'd hang up on you. But it's just like almost a mockery. So you have to
try not to say I understand.
Yeah, because you probably don't.
Right, not in their moment. In that moment, they have no heat. There's I didn't mean that. Well, no heat in your situation, and they're really freezing cold, and they would like to be warm, and maybe it is an elderly somebody in the home also. I mean, there's just all kind of risk factors. But if you're I could only imagine how cold you must be. I really want to make sure I get a service expert to your home right away so that we can take care of you. And then you've already hopefully captured their name so that you could use that in that
sentence. Bob, don't freeze.
Bob, I'm really sorry to hear that. Anyway, you could go on and on about the way that you can show empathy to somebody, but
it's sickening sometimes. I mean, she obviously answers our phones. I don't answer the phones. We probably would have half the customers we do if I answer the phones, because it's like, okay, like enough, but they like it. We get great feedback. We have people that have called the wrong number that she is getting to give us reviews on Google, and they're not even using our services or anything. And it's just like, how in the hell did that just happen? And it's just
because, Steve, we don't currently do that. But what I can tell you is that we offer air conditioning and we can do this for you. What do you think?
And it happens. So it's weird as it sounds. It works, even if it's not your forte, and it's not my forte. I try, especially after listening to her phone calls.
Soften them up a little bit.
I've tried being better about it. But it's definitely something that I constantly have to work at.
But like if they're saying that their air conditioner is not working properly and they're really hot, you immediately shouldn't say, okay, and what's your phone number? You should tell them, man, Mary, that is really hard. I can only imagine how uncomfortable you must be. I'd really like to send somebody out there to give you 5-star service. Would that be okay with you? And then she's like, heck yes, I want 5-star service. Go ahead and give me your name, your email, and all of that. And no problem getting emails because people want to make sure they're communicated with properly and well through our company. And
I prefer 4-star service.
Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, it's just,
well, and
it really is a culture thing. I feel like, I mean, and it's very easy to get away from it too, because we had one dispatcher that we didn't train properly, and she didn't onboard properly. Like, she didn't put forth her effort. We didn't put forth our effort. And it was very quick that, I mean, within a month, we had people that were dropping like flies that we've had to since go back and re-earn trust, rebuild relationships, stuff that we didn't even know. We were just listening to recordings and we're like, what just happened there?
Yeah. Services that we offered, they were being told that we didn't offer them.
Right.
Clients would actually no longer call us, but until I called them to follow up with something, they then were saying, well, we could tell that there must have been problems going on because that person was kind of toxic. And to hear those, so it's just kind of evaluate your process. Molly, did you get that?
Molly.
Okay. No, so Molly,
today's episode is for Molly.
It is for Molly.
And Nick, don't forget.
Oh, I didn't
Nick, husband.
So Molly and Nick and your company out in Minnesota, but in all seriousness, resources to know the right price, making sure that you evaluate your process, that you're building value from the start, and then to get it to the middle, like for the service expert to actually go there. I mean, I kind of build up our service expert and let them know that they're going to really knock their socks off.
And she puts that on the job summaries, and the technicians, they text me constantly about how they're going to knock people's socks off. So,
yeah. It's kind of entertaining, but it builds a little bit of humor in a serious situation for these clients. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Anyway, I leave lots of little notes in the job summary, like reminding them to take pictures before and after, so that way we can share them with the client. That's kind of huge. Definitely another wow item, right? Show them how dirty their blower wheel is and then how clean it is.
And they do HVAC, right?
Yes, HVAC.
So one of the things about HVAC, and we have a very large engineer population around us because we have Gulfstream airplanes. They're headquartered here. And so we have tons and tons of engineers here. And so we use Measure Quick. And if you don't use Measure Quick, if your techs don't use Measure Quick, start using Measure Quick. And it provides so much data that the engineers, they don't know what they're looking at. They say they do, but they don't know what they're looking at. But it still impresses those guys and gals. But it's super simple and it's super consistent. And we screenshot it, put it straight into Service Titan. And then as we go out there, every 6 months to do a maintenance or whatever, if for some reason we have like this ridiculous call where they just inconsistent problem, we have full documentation with screenshots. And it's not like someone just wrote down, the pressures were 75 and 225. Right. It's legitimately, we know the subcool, we know the superheat, we know the actual pressures, we know all about the system. And having that consistency is really, really helpful. And we can send it to the client. So if they ever, because we've had clients before, they're like, I don't know if I believe that. Because we do get some problem systems because we fix stuff. People have had 3 or 4 companies out there and then they call us and we fix it. And so we get stuck with some equipment that is really has demons in it. And with us being able to show that consistency on the invoices and we can attach it and just send it out to the clients, that's very helpful. And then the before and afters on cleaning the pictures, that makes, not only is it great Instagram content, but it's also very beneficial to the client to see how dirty it was, because sometimes it may be very dirty, but when they look at it, they're like, doesn't look that dirty. I mean,
if you can just explain to them that that's the air they breathe, is that dirt rolling around in there, they a lot of times will allow you to get a blower wheel cleaning in.
So we have one friend of ours who they just pull the blower wheel out, because ours are in attics. We're not blessed with basements here. So they just pull the blower wheel out, the whole blower assembly, bring it downstairs, and then just like you just rub your finger or take a white cloth and you just clean it like one blade. And then they're like, yeah, before you put that back in, why don't you go ahead and clean it? Because it's literally 2 screws and a couple wires to slide it out. It's really not that difficult. And so Andy Holt, he's been on the podcast several times also too, but Andy is the one that really got me on blower wheel cleanings, because we measured static pressure and airflow before and after blower wheel cleanings, and they were, I would say 100% of them I would not have pulled and cleaned. And the lowest the lowest improvement that we got was 50%. Yeah, I think it's been 10 years ago, but I think it was 50% airflow improvement on blower wheels that I would never in the past recommend pulling and cleaning. And so even if you only charged $100, which is low for any market for pulling and cleaning that blower wheel, that's an extra $100 that you would not have left there with. And then also they see how dirty it is. And then when you bring it back in and it's clean, they see how clean it is. And then hopefully your techs are taking pictures. And just an SEO tip for you, anybody that's listening, when they take the pictures, have them take it with the tablet or their phone. Do not text message it. Either one, airdrop it or put it in a Google file or the Google Pics shared file or a Dropbox file. It will retain your data. So then it will geolocate that picture. And so then when you upload it to some social media, but mainly your Google My Business and your website, if it has the geo tags on it, then they're like, okay, they legitimately were in this area when they took this picture. This isn't a stock image.
That.
It's not a stock image. And so it builds a little bit of authority. It's not huge, but if you're doing 500 pictures, it adds up really fast.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
That's free.
That's great
that's
gold nugget.
A free ad on there. So no extra charge.
I like it. So Molly and Nick, I really hope that you got something out of all of that. If there's anything additional that you feel like you might want to talk about, I know that Tersh is available.
What?
Yeah, offering you up.
How you know?
I know your schedule better than you.
True story. Also, Molly, we're going to send you this book here. This is actually one of our coaches, our Mike Aguilera. And 9 Pillars. This is actually, if you follow this book to a T, it really is a life-changing book. There are people that have just done this and generated $1 million easily. And it's a mindset shift. I mean, it walks you through step by step. And this is something that we get in, like you have to be a coach. I mean, you have to be part of his coaching organization, but I know he won't care if I give you this book, but I'm going to send this book and just let us know.
Honestly, I think that once you receive the 9 pillars and you look through it, you and Nick may want to consider being part of the coaching community, to be honest.
It's one of those things where coaching is really helpful because you have somebody else from the outside looking in, because whenever you're hovering over something constantly, it's very easy to get stuck in the weeds. That's like Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth Revisited. And it's, working on your business versus in your business. If you're in the grind every day, it's very hard to work on growing the business. So you want to focus, you want to spend time, certain amount of time for growing. and working on your business. So my Mondays and Fridays are my working on the business days, unless we get some kind of crazy something, then somebody books me to go do some call that's probably going to be really weird. Yeah, that's the days that I am working on the business and rather than in the business. And so it's
Some people just need the Tersh wow factor, okay?
right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what she said. But
Oh,
anyways, yeah, so you're going to have to send me your mailing address and I will have my lovely assistant mail this to you. Here you
yeah, great. I can take care of that.
go.
Molly will reach out to you for that in regards to the mailing address.
Cool. And anybody else? Oh, I don't even think I said what book this is because I'm just assuming that they're going to see this video. For the listeners of this episode, The 9 Pillars 2.0 by Mike Aguilera. And Mike Aguilera is the author, but there's a lot of stuff in here that's been brought in by some of the other coaches, which they're just really great people. And I know that you're listening to this and you're probably like, well, I have my own coaches and they're really awesome people.
No, it's a whole different fire. It's a whole different level of an experience. I can tell you that the investment.
Did I finish what I was talking about with the coaches? I don't know. Before I was saying everybody should have a coach.
Sorry. They're really great. I just had to tell everybody.
They are really good. They're a great good fit for us, but they're not a good fit for everybody. And there are other organizations out there that are coaches that are really good fits for other people. We like to be held accountable, and they're going to hold you accountable. Whereas there's other organizations that you're very self-motivated and you don't need to be held accountable. And sometimes you're annoyed by people that are constantly checking in on you. And so you need a different organization, and those organizations work great. And we've been a part of several organizations, and we've grown. I mean, we grew one business from 2 million to 8 million working with BDR. Great organization. BDR is a very good organization. Bruce and all that. I flew out to Seattle several times. Wonderful organization. But Mike, we just went to one of the events, and I'm an extreme introvert, and somehow he pulled me out of a shell. So we signed up. But don't forget, also Nick. Yeah, what?
For anybody not watching the video, I'm raising my hand so I don't interrupt.
Oh.
No, just these.
Next.
No, I just, in regards to all of the coaches, they all have different experiences that really bring a huge value to what they offer. Mm-hmm. And it's not only just being held accountable, but I literally hadn't become part of the business until Tersh stepped into their realm, because it was so eye-opening to realize what the business can offer to our family and to the community. We love to serve others, and it's super exciting that they are teaching every single one of the members of our team how to be the best to dominate the market.
Yep. And they talked us into using a new virtual reality training program. So that's really cool. And if anybody has any questions about that, let us know. It's really cool. I mean, you could take a green person, give them VR goggles, and have them working on a piece of HVAC equipment in the office rather than working on something that's actually going to kill them. So
that would not be a good thing.
Yeah, or falling off a roof. Well, that concludes this episode. We're at like a solid
49 minutes.
Yes. So if anybody has any questions about anything, reach out to either one of us. Social media at Tersh Blisset is where you can find me most everywhere. I'm trying to think. Twitter's different, but you just look up Tersh and it's Tersh and you're going to find me. And then Julie A. Blisset, if you'd like to connect with her, she gets more connections than I do because
whatever.
Just look at us. But anyways, Tersh at icebound.us for a little while. So eventually that's going to change too. But in the next little bit, you can reach out to us just like Molly did. And maybe you're lucky and we will rant for an hour about something you probably wanted answered in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But
5 minutes into an hour. Just we hope there was extra value in all of that.
Yeah, right. So don't forget, if you have not ordered your book from Zach Thomas, Leader Farming, talk about retention, keeping people, growing good people, hiring really good people. He took the Chick-fil-A model mentality and put steroids on it, and has really, and also the military mentality, because he was an officer in the military. And he was in the Ranger Battalion, and then worked over into the chaplain.
Hey, your episode?
Listen to the episode. It's a really good episode. I think it was the last episode that was released as we're recording this. It might be a couple episodes back, but Christmas Day, that's what it was. Christmas Day of 2019. Go back and get that. There's also some free tests, and there's a group, if you want to be part of their group on growing leaders by using the FARM method. And so he called it Leader Farming. But the book's free. Just pay for shipping, and then don't let it sit on your shelf. Actually read it. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know. And other than that, we'll talk again next week.
I like
Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. You know, I don't think I said that at the beginning of this episode. Did that introduce us?
I think we might have just started talking.
Who knows? Anyways, see you.